This rare footage showing a Marder 1 Panzerjäger training for amphibious operations is sensational. It fits in well with this episode in the Operation Barbarossa seminar series. As celebrated author and World War II historian Robert Kiruchbel walks us through the German 1941 Operation Beowulf in the Baltic Sea, I'll show rare associated film footage to help bring it to life, so stick around. It's worth it.
Welcome to the Operation Barbarossa seminar. This is a 21st century look at June 22nd, 1941. It's organized by Noisy Reality, which is a independent entity that basically set up to cover anything, including history and current affairs topics, culture, and art. The series is dedicated to the memory of our dear friend John PRADOS, who was a noted historian on the Second World War. The objective of this is to explore the planning and implementation of the invasion of the Soviet Union by the Third Reich and its allies on June 22nd, 1941. The goal is to cover this broad topic from a wide variety of perspectives, including the political, military, social, strategic, global, cultural, and operational aspects of Operation Barbarossa. Our goal is to have scholars represented and presenting in a collegial manner their interpretations of Operation Barbarossa in any manner or subject area they want. Rob Kiruchbel is a retired U.S. Army officer, a lieutenant colonel, who served in the armor branch in his service in the U.S. Army. He has a history PhD from Purdue University. His dissertation is centered on military engagement with civil government in Germany from 1916 to 1938. He's written numerous books and articles on military history, concentrating on World War II, in particular the German military and the Nazi-Soviet War. While at Purdue, which he's still associated with, he has taught history courses on the World Wars, American military policy, and strategy. He currently lives in Tampa, and today he will be talking about Operation Beowulf, an amphibious assault on the Baltic Islands. Rob, take it away.
So real quick, again, support your local artist. For those of you following along in Operation Barbarossa, this Operation Beowulf is around page 242. Those of you, the A students in the class who have this baby, are using map number 7. So I generally don't talk about tactical small unit actions like this. I'm more of an operational level guy, but this is a very interesting study. It's a German amphibious operation, really the only one, the largest one that they conducted in World War II on the islands in the Baltic off the Estonian coast. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So during World War II, the Wehrmacht conducted very few amphibious operations for two main reasons: lack of desire and a lack of capacity. The Germans' most successful overwater invasion in April of 1940 against Norway, warships and merchantmen ferried troops into established ports. So they just pulled up at a dock in Trondheim or Oslo or whatever and unloaded. So not really amphibious. Their largest planned amphibious operation, of course, Operation Sea Lion against Great Britain, was a completely improvised affair, chiefly using Rhine River type barges. And knowing what we know today about the complexities of Operation Neptune 4 summers later, we can easily speculate that Sea Lion would have been a spectacular disaster for the Germans. There's no way it could have won. And so anyway, quite simply, the interwar Wehrmacht put almost no effort into amphibious doctrine, equipment, training, and so forth. The Wehrmacht's one successful foray into this tactic was Operation Beowulf. And I'm going to be using the German names for these islands. These islands we have some name confusion, but I'm going to be using the German names for them. And this was a fully combined and joint assault in the way we understand those terms today. And the Germans considered it the equivalent to, quote, a very wide river crossing. And this is something that both the Army and the Luftwaffe did have doctrine, training, and experience to carry out. Now, by Germans, when we talk historically, we mean the Teutonic Knights and the Hanseatic League. They had long considered the Baltic their sea. Although, of course, Sweden, Russia, Poland at times were certainly competing powers in the Baltic, and hence the name confusion. So these islands and their cities have a German name, indigenous Estonian name, a Swedish name, sometimes a Russian name. So this is a German map. For those of you who don't know this site, German documents in Russia.org, watermark here. This is an excellent site. We've talked about this before, where the Russians these days are doing a much better job of digitizing and putting World War II records online than the United States is. But this is a map. It's called the war at sea situation up until the 27th of August. And here are the islands that we're talking about here. And the Germans have highlighted them. And you see all kinds of red arrows coming out of here. There are a few blue arrows where the Germans are kind of hugging the coast, or the Finns are working out of their coast or whatever. But the way the Germans portray these islands up here, and it's kind of comical in one regard, is they call it an aircraft carrier from which Stalin can just cause all kinds of mayhem in the Baltic. You can see they're attacking all over the coast of the Baltic countries, and even these are airplanes going down to bomb Berlin. And for a country with almost no navy and zero aircraft carriers, the Germans imagine aircraft carriers everywhere. In 1938, they called Czechoslovakia an aircraft carrier, pointed at the heart of Germany. In 1941, they call the British in Greece an aircraft carrier threatening the Ploesti oil fields. They call the Crimean base of the Soviets the same thing. It's an aircraft carrier that can threaten Romanian oil fields. And here it's an aircraft carrier that threatens Berlin. Never mind the fact that the Soviets have no strategic bombing capacity to speak of. It's also worth noting that the Germans' largest World War I amphibious operation, Operation Albion, was also against these islands, took place in October 1917. And we'll talk about that in a minute with regard to the naval feints and operations. So this is kind of the big picture here. Here are these islands. These are the two big ones, Ozel and Dago. That's the German names for them again. And you can kind of see where they are here. They could dominate the Baltic if they were better developed. The capital city down here we call Arenburg. It's just a large fishing village, so you can't put major warships into there. It's not a major port, and there's no airfields really to speak of in here. But not to say that it couldn't have that. And Army Group North, which is responsible for the left flank of Barbarossa, capturing Leningrad, linking up with Finland, and so forth, and also securing the Baltic littoral. They began planning to attack these islands in April of 1941. The staff came up with two options. At this time, they're called Osel 1 and OSEL 2, OSEL 1 being basically a hasty assault from Courland and Riga, sort of from the march, and then OSEL 2, which would be a more deliberate attack once the Germans had taken all of Estonia here, then they would attack. They deemed one infantry division that was reinforced would be sufficient, and so the Army Group staff briefed their commander, Field Marshal von Lieb, on 6th of May for this plan. He had only a few questions, and on the 25th of May, he signed the order for the renamed Beowulf operation. So they still have Beowulf 1 and 2. They've just changed the name. And for the next couple months, through June and July, there's going to be a lot of correspondence going back and forth between the Army, Navy, and Air Force. On the 8th of July, Army Group North decided to go with Beowulf 2, the deliberate attack with the 18th Army in command. They stressed the need to take the small island of Moon, this is the little island here, very quickly. And it's only 4 miles off the mainland. There's a narrow strait here that's 4.5 miles wide. And therefore, the wide river analogy. And from then they would capture there's a causeway between the two islands we'll talk about later. So for the Navy, they had a few tasks here. One would be to ferry heavy equipment across the water. Equipment is too heavy for the assault boats. This includes artillery trucks, horses, bulk ammunition, bulk food, bulk fuel, and so forth. They also have 3 feints or demonstration maneuvers. One is called the South Wind. It's mainly the 6-inch cruisers in the Baltic. You have to remember at this point, Bismarck is sunk, Prince Eugen is bottled up in Brest. German Navy does not have a whole lot in the Baltic. So they have 3 of these light cruisers. Operation West Wind is going to be a torpedo flotilla and a Schnellboot flotilla, we call, PT boats. And then Operation North Wind was going to be a Finnish operation, okay? And all of these are to kind of fake the Soviets into thinking that the invasion is going to be over here on the west side of these islands. This is where Albion in 1917 happened, and so they want to give the Russians or the Soviets the impression that they're going to repeat Operation Albion. Okay. Naval Group Command North, Group and Commando North in Kiel is going to control the Kriegsmarine contribution here. Tactical leadership is going to go to this Marine Befehlshaber under Rear Admiral Franz Clausen. And so the Kriegsmarine order of battle is these 6-inch light cruisers, some destroyers, torpedo boats, minesweepers, these Schnellboote, the fast boats, and various smaller craft. Okay, the Luftwaffe contribution here is their missions are going to be to prevent the Red Army Air Force from interfering with the landings, to do reconnaissance, to attack Soviet artillery, support the crossing of the causeway, and to interdict any Red Navy attempts to disrupt Beowulf. And so we're going to have perhaps a half dozen Bf-109s from the Grunherz fighter squadron, some Bf-110s from the Horst Wessel, and then a couple outfits of Ju-88s, one Luftwaffe Geschwader 77, and then some Navy Ju-88s based out of Riga. And you can see here, I put a distance marker here. As you can see, it's 100 miles from the main Luftwaffe base. And so they can be anywhere on these islands in 20, 30 minutes. What these stars represent is the preparatory raids that the Luftwaffe launched in the days before the actual crossing is going to happen on the 14th. So on the 13th, they bombed what would be the landing beaches, the capital city, and some Soviet defenses in the middle of the island. Luftflotte 1, or the first air fleet, is the Luftwaffe organization that is supporting Army Group North, and their chief of staff, Major General Heinz Helmut von Wöhlisch, he's going to supervise the Luftwaffe effort here. It's called Fliegerführer B. The 42nd Corps is going to have overall operational command of Beowulf, and the unit tasked to do the fighting is the 61st Infantry Division under Lieutenant General Siegfried Haneke. This division had not been involved in the Sea Lion order of battle, but during the summer of 40, the 61st had trained for a cross-channel attack, and possibly the reason that the division was chosen for Beowulf. The division had fought very well in Poland, Belgium, France, and early Barbarossa. And you can see the subordinate units, 3 infantry regiments, an artillery regiment, a recon battalion, and in addition to an anti-tank battalion and pioneers also. And also involved would be 1 battalion of the neighboring division, 217th Infantry Division, that would attack the little island of Worms. It was heavily reinforced, the 61st was, and so these are the units that came from the 42nd Corps. You can see these are Camo. Here's the field police. We're just talking about a post office, and then mainly some engineer troops, some recon troops, and a flak battalion. And then these are the support troops that are directly underneath the 61st. There are a couple of artillery staffs for coordinating this, and then you can see 4 very large motorized artillery units with guns up to 150 millimeters and 210 millimeters. They're also reinforced with a forward observer battalion, and then other construction engineers, regular combat engineers. This is the Stormboat Commando. These are the guys who are going to use the actual little amphibious boats down here. There's 2 of them shown here, 904 and 906. 905 will also be involved. And then they also have another flak battery down there, also in support. So you can see this is heavily reinforced. Most of this stuff will not ever reach the islands, or if it does, it will be on the far islands. These guns can range far and wide on the islands without actually being on the islands. Now, for the enemy situation, the Germans way underestimate the Soviets that they're going to have to face. In fact, the Soviets probably outnumber the Germans, which, not ideal when conducting an amphibious operation here. There's a Major General Lisiev who's in command. He has the 79th Rifle Regiment here on the island of Moon, where the Germans are first going to land, and then the 3rd Independent Rifle Brigade on the big island of Osel, and 2 battalions will initially guard Dago up here, but when the Soviets evacuate Osel, a lot of those guys will end up here in Dago. Now, one source I read says that the Soviets had not really done a good job of preparing for this defense but as I read the German records of it, it shows that they're, at least initially, they did quite a good job. And then I also provided some light data here. You can see this is, they had pretty full days, right? It can get dark early and get dark early at the evening too, when you're that far north. But they had Germans, well, actually both sides had a full day of fighting. And the ceiling, at least on the first day, was some overcast. So these planes are going to be flying awful low. Here's just a couple of documents for your interest. This is the 42nd Corps order to the 61st Division here to do Beowulf #2. The invasion from the big island of Ossel to the next bigger island of Dago, that's going to be called Operation Siegfried. This is the 61st Division order for that. Here's the order for the Marine Command C and for Fliegerführer B, the two supporting Navy and Air Force operations. And these are basically, there's no real big shocker in these orders, pretty straightforward operation. So I already mentioned that the Germans treated this assault as crossing a very wide river, and their main instrument here is going to be what they call the Pionier Sturmboot Leicht. It's a light wooden boat. This thing, it sticks out the back. We would think of it as kind of an outboard motor. They call it a power oar because it steers and powers at the same time. It has a fairly good speed, 30 kilometers per hour, 18, 20 miles per hour. Can make the round trip between the mainland and Moon in about an hour and a half. Can hold 5 to 6 guys, okay, with light equipment. For example, a machine gun, light mortar, that kind of stuff. They're also supported by 2 Navy assets. One is called the Kiruchbel ferry, which you can see here. It's quite large, can hold up to 100 guys, half a dozen trucks and vehicles. It's fairly slow. So to make a round trip, even across this 4-mile strait, takes quite a long time. Much of that time is really spent loading and unloading. And then there's another barge thing. You can see the picture here. This is kind of modern looking. We could see this on Tarawa or at D-Day or whatever. It's kind of a purpose-built looking landing craft. It's not as big as the Kiruchbel ferry, but it is a good size and can carry quite a bit, and has a ramp, for landing on the coast. So remember that during some of these other German landings, for example, Crete, the Germans commandeered a lot of fishing boats, coastal vessels, other small civilian craft to augment their own assets. And that would have been the case in Sea Lion as well. Really kind of a thrown together kind of Mickey Mouse operation. Here's a schematic of one assault company. Up here you can say a reinforced rifle company that required about 65 boats. And you can see there's 1st, 2nd, 3rd platoon. This is the command group up here. The engineer, pioneer leader, the radio guy, and then artillery fort observers. They're all in that first group. And then what I've done over here is highlighted these, in case you didn't know the German tactical symbols, what these various boats carry. And so you can see they distributed the heavy machine guns across all platoons. The mountain guns, these are small we'll talk about that in a second. Kind of small artillery pieces, mortars. There was a couple boats with heavy mortars. This one over here had the doctor or the medic on it. And then you also see quite a few ammo boats. They're gonna be burning up ammo pretty quick. And then just for your FYI up here, one, the Allies would consider their standard landing craft, the Higgins boat, would basically carry 35 men, 40, full platoon, in other words. Each one of these boats, 5-6 guys. And if you had to carry a mountain gun, a 75 millimeter gun, it maybe had the gun and one guy to steer the boat. You could not have any people on it with that little lightweight mountain gun. The main landing and stuff is going to be complicated. These boats, most of them were designed for rivers or relatively sheltered water, and they're going to be vulnerable to environmental factors. On 11 September, the seas around here were so rough that Beowulf, the command, Henneke and his guys decided to delay the attack until the 14th. The Navy had already begun clearing the Soviet minefields that were in the strait here, underwater mines. But then to fake the Soviets into thinking that the attack was coming from the west or from the seaward side here, the Kriegsmarine started these feints and demonstrations to kind of replicate Albion of a generation earlier. Sudwind and Westwind, they actually faked actual landings. But the Finnish operation, Nordwind, was meant to look like a raid from the sea. And this is a picture. Here's the light cruiser Köln doing shore bombardment. And this is the flagship of the Finnish Navy, the pride of the Finnish Navy, Ilmarinen. It's a good-sized ship, has 10-inch guns here. And as part of Northwind, it bumbles into a minefield and hits 2 Soviet mines. And 7 minutes later, it's sunk, taking 270 Finnish sailors down with her. So that's not an auspicious start for the operation.
Use the QR code to get to our website and open a free account. If you'd like to see other episodes from this seminar series, click on this link. Patreon members get regular access to exclusive film footage. If you like this kind of material, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thanks for watching.